Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got something in store for you, which is my reaction to Sabaton's Christmas Truce, probably one of the most requested videos on this channel. So if you're new here, my name is Melinda Reaper, I'm a filmmaker, and I love music, specifically metal music and music videos. I've been having so much fun on this channel, reacting, more so dissecting and analyzing music videos from my perspective as a filmmaker, and just sort of guiding you through how these videos are made, things I'm seeing in these videos, and it's just been a whole lot of fun. So I don't really react to the music necessarily. I more so look at the visuals and how they work together with the music. And also specifically with Sabaton, I should say that I don't really know too much specifically about the history. So I'm not gonna pretend that I do. So I'm gonna probably miss some specific stuff. But I found that the Sabaton fans are really, really good about sharing, those little history bits and sharing that in the comments. And I've actually been learning quite a bit. So previously I reacted to Soldier of Heaven and Bismarck, which you can find on my channel if you haven't seen those yet. And it was so much fun to read all of your reactions and to see you engage with, my input as well, and to be able to add to your enjoyment a little bit somehow. So it's been really fun. But without further ado, let's get into it, shall we?
Man, wake up! Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thomas! Thomas! Come on!
Wow, what an opening, my goodness. That was really, really, really cool. So something I've learned about Sabaton and something that I've learned to really appreciate about them is how seriously they take these music videos and the amount of effort that they put in and like the people that they collaborate with to create the videos. Just stunning. So just some of the things that I noticed here is that they're doing a really great job with the lighting and the camera work here, and it looks like a full-on war film, right? Saving Private Ryan, like all of these big budget Hollywood films. And the way that they're achieving that, I think a lot of that is because of the beautiful lighting, the really great camera work, because I saw some beautiful focus work, especially here, and the costumes were really cool. So just some little things that stood out to me here. So in this shot specifically, we can see that they have, a big light here that has the really cool toned, almost daylight-like light, very blue toned. And then we have all of these warmer lights as well, which are, sort of in tune with this little, I think like a little fuel light. And it's supposed to make us feel as if there's fire. We have these flashing lights, which kind of simulate that gunfire as well. It's really cool. We see some special effects already here with the explosions. So that looks really cool. Let me play that again for you. Boom. With the dust and everything just looks, and with all of the sound effects as well. So it's really very, it's really a very all-around production. Like they're not really skimping on a lot here. And even the set, and the set also looks great. Like these sandbags and the barbed wire and these walls, it really looks like those, oh my goodness, what's the word? Loopgraven is what we call them in Dutch. trenches, of course. Thank you, Google. The set build looks really good as well, and they have the smoke machine going, which really adds to the atmosphere and sort of to the whole vibe. We don't see much elsewise. We're on a set, so they've really made everything else as dark as possible, but that makes us focus on what's happening here in these trenches. So again, here also, like, costumes look great. They got all these guys here wearing those costumes. So great work so far. What an opening. So really, really, really cool.
And we're back. The team is looking down the barrel of a 450.
Silence!
Incredible. What a cool shift into the body of the music, right? So we went from this full-on battle at night, and now we're during the day. What I'm really noticing is the editing is really paced very well with the music. So the singer, Joachim, is really positioned quite beautifully there with this piano, with this really textured wall. And we get like glimpses of close-ups of his hands as he's playing, which is sort of, they have these little slow motion bits, and then it speeds up and it slows down along with the way that he's playing, which is really beautiful. And then something that I wanted to point out that I absolutely love here in terms of VFX. So let me play this for you and look at the snow. So it's really consistent throughout all of these shots. It's snowing. It's not actually snowing on this set though, but it's pretty clear that it's not real snow. However, something that I really appreciate that they have really put in a lot of effort to make it look real. So even the piano is covered with this fake snow. He's got fake snow on his costume, as well as this guy. They're covered with snow. Everything is really consistently, like there's little bits of snow. It's like not a thick cover of snow either, because it's not snowing that hard, even in the VFX. But what I really love here is sometimes when VFX is not done well for rain or for snow, it's like very unidimensional. So there's like one layer of snow right up front. So you see the bigger bits here, which is the snow that we would see up close. But then we also, they really put in a lot of effort to make it seem as if it's even snowing here by this guy in the back. So we see little tiny bits of snow, which are almost transparent, which is the way that we would see it in real life. So a lot of the time you would only see this layer, the up close snow, so that it snows like right where you are, but you can tell that it's not snowing in the distance. And here you can really, they really put in a lot of effort to make it look like there's depth in this fake snow. So I think that's really cool. Again, this costume is so cool. There's so much detail, so much attention to detail with that. And I just love the way that this shot specifically is blocked as well. We have him here in the foreground, and then we have this more colorful guy here in the background. And also the color grading is quite beautiful as well. It's like they took out a lot of the reds to make it seem more desaturated. So we do see some of the reds here, but it's a very I can imagine that the costume he was wearing here was very bright actually in person, and here is just like muted, which again really fits with the theme and the setting. Very beautiful color grading.
Silence. Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day. After many months on the battlefield, and we were used to the violence, then all the cannons went silent, and the snow fell. Voices sang to me from no man's land. We are all, we are all, we are all, we are all friends. And today we're all brothers, tonight we're all friends. Our moment of peace in a war that never ends. Today we're all brothers, we drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. Hear carols from the trenches, we sing a holy night. Our guns lay to rest on warm snowflakes. Our Christmas in the trenches, our Christmas on the front, far from home. Madness, how I remember the sound.
Wow. So, just a couple quick notes. Like, we're just getting back into this story. These guys are kind of just sitting there, and he's, singing, and they start singing with him. And now he's starting to get into, or I should say, out of the trench. So, just a couple quick notes. I didn't have too much to say about this, but I did love this shot specifically because it's like a real close up. And again, it's really fun because you see again how they've really tried to emulate as if it's actually snowing. And we have some snow in his face here, and we still see some of the fake snow falling as well, the VFX snow. And really great makeup as well. They really made him look kind of grimy. Blood looks really good as well. And I love the texture on his face and like how close it is, and him opening his eyes, like a very special moment here. He's not actually dead, so that's really cool. And I really love the very shallow depth of field here as well. So that's what kind of makes the background here look hazy, right? So that's why this looks hazy. And here in the foreground, like just like this bit here is sharp already. Here, this right eye, you can see that it's already starting to get blurry. They really have some beautiful shot arrangements here as well. I love the symmetry in this shot specifically as well. It's like you have him in front of this, again, really beautifully textured wall with the wooden beams here. And there's just a beautiful symmetry. The thirds here, as they call them, is just composed really beautifully. I just checked to see if I could find where this was shot. And I see that it was shot in the Czech Republic. I just can't find too many specific details on how. And I don't know if there was a BTS video made for this, but if there was, please share it in the comments because I always love watching those and just learning more about how the production team went about creating this. But I'm now kind of doubting whether or not this was shot at an actual, outdoors location or if it was shot on a set, because now I can see that there's trees around. And sure, they can do that with CGI and kind of make it seem as if they're outdoors. However, what I also read is that they really tried to go for as much realism as possible, which again, I could really tell from those explosions already earlier on, where it just all looks really real, as well as, some of the gunshots where they did have, they were firing blanks. So let's continue watching where this guy steps out of the trench and what happens. quite something. So I'm now reminded that I have heard about the Christmas truce in like my high school studies, and I do remember some of this. And they really made this into a very interesting and kind of joyous and still sort of surreal kind of experience. I've always found it a very sort of weird story anyway. It's like just a day of peace somehow. Anyway, it's really, really cool, really well done. And just from a filmmaking perspective too, like I really like how they're building towards, you know, them coming together through all this and them singing about how they're all friends in the end. And just to point out some specifics here. Something I really was kind of going through in my head, okay, so we have this, the actual trenches do seem, they may have built them as a set somewhere in the forest, I guess in the Czech Republic. Really cool if they did that, because that must have been a lot of work. And that's something that, again, I really appreciate, is that they're really going for as much realism as possible. And I think that's, you know, the DP that I worked with on a TV show recently, he really told me, like, to make things look as good as possible, sure, VFX is really, really great, but you want to do most things in camera or on set as much as possible, wherever you can, because not only is it usually cheaper, because VFX is sometimes kind of used as sort of a way to cut corners, and usually it ends up costing a lot more than they think beforehand, right? Because it just, everything takes a long time. People that say that usually don't know that much about VFX, and so they get mistaken about how long it takes, how much money it costs to do the things that they want to do, or, you know, you can't do it at all. For instance, a good friend of mine who's a VFX supervisor, in fact, she's one of 2 female VFX supervisors in the entire world, which I think is awesome. Well, and sort of sad too, honestly. But she told me that one time she had someone ask her to, you know, they shot a scene with a car, and they asked her, like, oh, can you turn around the car? She's like, no, of course you can't, because first of all, it's going to take hours upon hours. And second, it would be really expensive. And also, like, you didn't shoot the other side of the car. So you just want us to render the entire thing? Anyway, just saying, it's like, kudos to them for really working with a production company that has done, you know, big scale Hollywood level films before, and also using the VFX where it's minor stuff, right? So the snow, as I mentioned before, but also the fog here is VFX. So there was some parts where the fog was moving, you could kind of see that it wasn't real, but still, like, in general, it's really translating the feeling of this being real fog. So, and that's the part that counts. Like, I'm being very picky and just trying to uncover and sort of dissect what I'm seeing. And obviously, you're also dealing with a lot of, you know, restrictions and challenges. And what I saw is that they only had 2 or 3 days to film all this, and for something of this scope, that's very little time. So, I really love that. Also, just this transition from the actual trenches itself and them walking out is really, really cool. I wonder if they also built the trenches on a set, actually. So what I think is that they actually had 2 sets. So they had this outdoor set as well as on an actual physical, like, stage set, because of, you know, right now we're here, we see these where they're coming out, but we have these shots, right, of him playing on the piano and everything. And to me, those feel like they were shot on an actual stage where they built the set as well, just because you need so much space for cameras and your camera movement and all of your crew and everything. If you want to do these types of shots, you need a lot more space than what this physical set, you know, the one that we're seeing here, would give you. That's what I think. I might be completely off, but I think based on what I'm seeing, that's what they did. But I'm in awe. Like, this is so cool. Like this is, the level that we don't normally see for music videos. And these are the type of music videos that make me just crazy to that just get my heart beating faster as a filmmaker, because I think that they're being so creative with the limitations that they have, and just writing these beautiful stories to go with the music and the lyrics and all of that, and it's just spectacular, and just goes to show how far some of these bands are willing to go for the music videos, especially with with a band like Sabaton, who really have that mission of sharing the history and some of those stories and honoring fallen soldiers. I think that's incredibly cool. And I think it's also honestly part of why they're so popular, is that they do go that extra mile. You know what I mean? And I love that. It's excellent. So let's watch the solo again, because I know I cut it just ever so slightly short.
Trenches of Christmas on the front, far from home.
Whoa. That is so cool. I just wanted to quickly interrupt before we head into like the final part of this. What I love about the tone of this as well is the music is actually quite cheerful, which, given the subject is funny, but I suppose because it is the truce and it is Christmas, it's really fitting, and it feels like a coming together, really. And we see it, we hear that in the song as well as and we see it in the video as well. And now I guess the truce is over and we get back into it. So let's watch that. I really am so impressed, I must say, with the realism of everything, and just the eye for detail in general.
Has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. On Christmas on the front line we walk among our friends. We don't think about tomorrow. The battle will commence when we celebrate to Christmas. We thought about our friends. On the front line we a moment of peace in a war that never ends.
What an ending. Wow. Beautiful. So just to quickly go back, and I do want to let the credits roll shortly because I really want to always just give as much credit where it's due, you know. But just wanted to quickly touch on the big fight at the end. I'm so impressed, like again with like all of the realism of the guns and the gunfire. And what I read is that they did have like they were working guns, so they must have shot blanks on set, not actual bullets because that can kill people and that we don't want that on set. And it's really, really impressive. And then, wow, that moment where they blow up the piano. Just let's watch that again. Incredible. That, you know, is just stunning. And I read somewhere that it was the actual piano that he was playing. So not much was left after that piano. No reshoots for the piano scenes. My gosh. So that's just incredible that they were able to pull off some of these really big explosions as well. That's, you know, you will have like your armor and your explosive expert on set to make sure that everything is done safely. And, you know, in the history of filmmaking, they've done so many explosions. So it's something that you can do completely safely, but you just need to have the right people there that do know how to do it right and know how to do it well. And, you know, your cinematographer really needs to know how to film this right because it can get really like blown out because there's a lot of bright colors in an explosion, right? Or, you know, really bright whites because of the explosion. That's also, I think, why this shot is so dark afterwards because they had to, you know, compensate for the brightness of the actual explosion. Something I really appreciate about Sabaton as well is their really thoughtful endings, right? They really highlight the moment of what happened and make sure that, you know, it has something like the dove of peace that we saw in Soldier of Heaven. And then here in Christmas Truce, we see a Lest We Forget little moment there with the candle, which is just, I love the soft colors here, the pastels of the oranges and like the blues, and we still have some of the mist here in the snow. And then with the candle, it just looks really, really beautiful. So kudos to them really for it being so tasteful. So let's just go through the credits and so just to quickly point out what the difference is between an SFX supervisor and a VFX supervisor. So an SFX supervisor is someone who is involved in the on-set, and that means special effects, by the way, on-set actual physical effects. So that would be any fire that you see on set. It would be, you know, the explosions. It would be the guns sometimes, although technically you would need an armorer, but they would be involved with, you know, if there was any, for example, gunshots. You know, when sometimes you see like guns shooting and then wounds like appearing and exploding, that kind of thing. That's also special effects. Any smoke you see on set also is like, it's special effects. So just those types of things. And then VFX is really the CGI visual effects that they will, you know, add using computer in post-production on the edit, after the edit, really. And the VFX supervisor, what they do is they make sure, especially a supervisor, will be on set and they will, you know, be involved in shooting what they call plates. So they shoot like just a blank of the scene without anyone or anything on set, so that they use that when they need to remove something or to add something, so that they actually know what it looks like, as well as for like the lighting of the day. So they also, sometimes will have to answer questions and work with the DP very closely, so that they are aware of, hey, you need to make sure that you get this, this, and this, so that we can use that in VFX in the VFX edit for all of the CGI that we need to put on here, like the snow and the fog. Oh, that was Floor. Incredible. What a treat. So I didn't know this, but the outro was done, or the vocals were Florian set. So that's so nice. I didn't know that. I love that. So, and I also saw that someone who did the BTS and making of was credited as well. So I'm gonna watch the BTS. I like not watching the BTS before I see a video, so that I could kind of see what I can get from it, and then watch the BTS to see how close I was and guessing like what they did. And turns out that usually I'm pretty close. So I love that. Something again I want to like point out about these credits. Did you see how many people were involved on this? The moment you start to do bigger stuff, if you saw the amount of people, like the special effects, on-set special effects coordinators, and like the specialists and everything, it just grows and grows and grows, and all of a sudden you're on a set with 90 people and you're making like a 5-minute short film, which this is, you know what I mean? It's the amount of people and time involved. It can just get exponentially bigger and more expensive. So it's just very admirable that they went to these lengths to make this beautiful video. And I think they did a really, really beautiful job. And I hope they make many more. I know from what I just read in this quick interview with Joachim is that they're very hard to do, and working on set is hard. And that is something that he said, is he actually really hates it because it's so tough. It's tough. Like once you learn how much work and how many hours filmmakers and like everyone on a crew on set puts into these videos, it's really a labor of love. If you don't like filmmaking, if you don't like being on a set, you wouldn't be there, because it's hard work. There are long days, and also like it can be really boring. It's especially because they have to shoot certain things over and over and over. Because, for example, this moment that he was playing the piano, you saw that they were filming it from multiple angles, right? So he is playing just that little bit, and he may have done like a large chunk of the video, or of the song, playing that over and over, just so that they would have enough footage from plenty of angles. But that means that you're probably spending like over an hour playing the same thing over and over, and then it's your face, then it's on your fingers, then it's from on your fingers from a slightly different angle. Now, I will say I did notice that they had multiple camera operators and multiple focus pullers, 2 for each, and that probably means that they shot it with 2 cameras, which honestly, considering the scope of this thing, was probably a good thing. So that meant that they could shoot multiple angles at the same time. So if you have two cameras on set instead of just one, that halves your shooting time. Then again, it does mean that you have to double the crew that you have. So it's like a balancing act of like, what can you do with the amount of time and the amount of money that you have? And that's always the juggling act that we as filmmakers are, dealing with. So I think that's really cool. And again, I still don't know entirely for sure if they shot this, if they had two trenches and maybe it was built outside, it wasn't on a soundstage, but I do still think that the little bit where we see them, when the music starts and we see them all in these trenches, I'm fairly sure that they built like a separate trench for just that specific part of the video, and especially knowing now that they had two cameras. Again, you need like a lot of room for that much crew and that many cameras to work around them and move around them and do all of those beautiful shots. So anyway, that is my dissection of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, some of the history below in the comments if you want to share any thoughts you have, anything that I maybe missed. There's so much going on in this, and I know that in the Bismarck video, it was the coordinates that I knew they were coordinates, but I didn't know what they were for. And that was really enjoyable to kind of hear your ideas and also, facts about that. And I really welcome all of your feedback. It's so fun. And in the meantime, I hope I'll be doing more Sabaton in the future. I nowadays also have a Patreon account where I share these videos. You get early access to my videos, you get some exclusives, you get some exclusive access to my work that I can't share with the world yet, because usually it's like a multi-year process before things get released. So I give you some, behind the scenes into my work as well. So that's really fun. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find that here. And if you haven't yet, you can subscribe to my channel. And here's another one. Let me know what you've been watching in terms of movies or TV shows lately, or what you've been playing in terms of video games. Like, I always love hearing what you've been engaging with in the world out there, because that's what I'm all about. That's what I love most. So let me know if there's anything good. I've been watching Shogun, which, is also a historical show. I bet there must be some of you Sabaton fans who might like Shogun. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. And if you have, let me know what you thought. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Silence. Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day. After many months on the battlefield, and we were used to the violence, then all the candles went silent.